So some people have been curious about how I'm using Biamp Tesira to run a sound system in my venues and the various portable deployments that I work with. So here is a Tesira configuration that I use for a small venue. It basically has a two stereo inputs, one at the back of the room, one at the front of the room, and it has like a 4-point speaker system, and it has two subwoofer outputs. It has one subwoofer output for a house sub, and it has one subwoofer output for my sound system that I use for my subwoofers. And then it has four outputs for main speakers that go to amplifiers for those. And so this is like a totally, I guess you could say object-oriented, like open architecture DSP. So you can put in any type of uh, processing element that you want for audio. So up here you have like there's kind of I/O. You can put in audio mixers, you can put in EQ, filters, crossover, things like dynamics, audio routers, delay, and then you can put in like level controls, metering for looking at signal levels. There's audio generators. There's also like some logic functionality because there's GPIO on these Tesira boxes. Um, so I've kept this like really as simple as possible, but also to be able to give me the level of control that I need to make everything work the way I want it to. So I've got this is the physical input on the Tesira Forte rack unit. It has 8 physical inputs that are balanced. So I've got my left and right. These are terminated XLRs, left and right for the front of the room, left and right for the back of the room. And it goes into an audio router, and then it goes through a matrix mixer, and I have metering available here so I can see what the levels are at each part of the system. I'm not connected to the system currently, so it's not showing any inputs. And so it goes to the matrix mixer. It's pretty simple, but basically we're just combining uh, left and right from the front and the back, and that gets combined into a stereo input. And I have some extra inputs here if I do want to add anything at some point, but I'm just using the 4-ins. And then they put a mixer at the front of it, at the front end, if when they want to do like front of house stuff. There's a main master input EQ on the system, then a master leveling for the system. Everything goes through then a high pass filter to filter out any subsonic stuff that my speakers can't handle. So I have that set to whatever I need it to be for the system to be able to work properly. Then we are going through, we have basically two crossovers, two-way crossovers to create a stereo crossover. And when you open those, you can kind of see what you're able to get here. You have some, you can do any type of filtering you want, any type of slope, any type of filter type for each band, and you can set these independently, or you can have them have a matched crossover point. And in the Biamp Canvas software, you can set up you can gang these together so that when you change the when you change the crossover point, it adjusts them for both. It makes them both change together and be like synchronized. Okay, so then from here going on, the low section, subwoofer section, gets summed to mono. So we have mono sub going, and that's just actually like an audio mixer function. And those subwoofers outputs then get sent to basically like the two subwoofer outputs that I was talking about. And they have their own control. They have their own, each subwoofer output has its own EQ for whatever I want to make it do. And then each subwoofer output has its own leveling. They have their own delay if I want to add delay. And then that goes into an audio router. There's final, like, there's leveling or metering for all my outputs. And finally, those go out to the physical outputs. Tesira Forte has 8 physical outputs. And then those go out to my amplifiers. Similarly, with the high range, basically I take those left and right high range outs, and then basically the front of the room has its own EQ, the rear of the room has its own EQ, and I have leveling control for the front and the rear, and I have delay for the mains and for the rears, and then those go out to the physical outputs same way. And then at this stage, you actually have level control at the very end of the output stage, so I can see what's actually getting sent out. And the nice thing about this is that you can actually set the full scale dB range for each output. So for like my sub amplifier, it can take as much, it can take 24 dB, no problem. But I have, for the house sub that people use for most events, it's like an EV sub, and it doesn't have a lot of headroom on the input actually. So you can actually scale the input for whatever your destination likes. So I have it scaled down so that people actually won't clip the input stage of that EV like powered sub that they use, which is a nice like feature. So that is like generally just like a really simple processor for a small nightclub, and it's powerful enough that I can make very specific changes because I have like master EQ, I have EQ of every section, level control at every stage that I need it, delay where I need it, and it's been great. It's rock solid. Like it just stays on. You come in, you flip the power on, turn the amps on, and you're ready to go. And then I have it connected to a little Wi-Fi router in a rack. So when I connect to it, I can control what I need during the gig. Can boost the level a little bit when I need it, lower it when I need it. I can adjust, I can notch out. The nice thing is like I have parametric EQ on the sub here, and so I can kind of notch. Usually, when I'm doing turntables and things, sometimes I'll get some bass feedback, so I can notch that out very targeted way. And again, I'm not like connected to the system live, so this might not be actually what is going on in the system, but this just gives you an idea of like what you can add. When you put in these EQs, you can have as many PEQs as you want, pretty much. And then over here, it shows you like this is how much of the processing power of the Forte am I using to be able to do this. And I'm using about 30% of the processing power with this configuration. So there's plenty of room to make this a much more complicated system if I wanted to do that. So that's just a short overview of how I'm using Tesira Forte for nightclub setups for sound system. I've used some other DSPs like DBX drive racks and things like that. But this is a lot more flexible, a lot more powerful, and then it's also kind of locked out, so users can't mess with it. In the next video, I'm going to show the control surface that I made for being able to manipulate this. And the last thing I should say is like the Tesira Forte system is like you have one preset that is your configuration. That is like all of the DSP elements, all the signal routing, the lines between the elements. That's all the same. And you can have presets that are sets of different parameters for each of the elements that you can call up, but you really have one master preset for the system. You can't like call up different configurations. You've got one configuration, and you can have as many presets as you want, basically, of like what are these different levels set at, what's my EQ set at, and whatnot. So you kind of have to design it in a way that is going to be flexible enough for whatever situation you might have on the system. That's maybe the one kind of limitation is like you can't like call up like a bunch of different configurations of different routings and signal flows and things. You kind of have to like plan for what you need it to do and then work within that configuration. Yeah, so that's my demo of Tesira. In the next video, I'll show you what the control surface looks like.